Welcome back to another episode of the Total-MLS Roundtable. A wild weekend in Major League Soccer, to say the least. The transfer window has just closed. Jermaine Defoe is still a Toronto FC player. We'll get to that shortly. Rob will have some words on the goings-on north of the border. Let's introduce our panel today. Mike, how's it going?
From a personal standpoint, good. From a Rebel standpoint, not so good.
Yeah, not too good yesterday in DC, but still hope. Philip, a regular to the show after the thrashing put on by the great club Houston Dynamo at Sporting Park. How are things?
Yes. Pretty good. Busy today with the transfer window. Over at 32 Flags, but all in all, I'm just glad to get that game behind me and look towards the weekend.
Yeah, we'll get back to that game shortly. Don't think I will let that one go too easily.
You don't have to.
Well, we'll see if we have time. And our good friend in Canada, Rob, who tries to take a nice vacation on a holiday weekend, get away from things, enjoy some time away. Rob, what is going on?
I am at a total loss for words. And the only words that come to my mind are words that I can't say on these broadcasts. So
Let's start with Toronto. First off, Tim Leiweke says he's not going anywhere, and then maybe days later, he's
it
gone.
was hours.
Yeah, all the quotes are like, I'm not leaving, and then maybe over lunch, he's gone. So that happens.
I believe the quote was, "Why does everyone want to kick me out of the city so quickly?"
Well, he didn't get kicked out, I guess. Maybe he felt the pressure and decided he was gone himself. But there's your first domino. And then Saturday at BMO Field, New England came to town and, quite frankly, put a butt whipping on Toronto. 3-0. It just ugly. Kellen Rowe scored from like 30 yards out. Jermaine Jones didn't even start. Michael Bradley running around like his head's cut off. That happened. And then, Rob, you were saying after that game something about their coach. What was that you thought of after that 3-0 loss?
You know, I should have found the tweet before we started this, but it was along the lines of, after 2/3 of a season, I've had enough of you. You're done. And I think one of my other tweets was, "Changes are coming, mark my words." I'll have to find that tweet to prove it.
I'm scrolling through your timeline now. We're gonna find this.
Rob,
But
are you like
changes definitely came, and they came. What, am I like Wiki's replacement? Oh my God, wouldn't that be something?
Man, you called it.
Quick, what are the lottery numbers for this weekend?
Rob is he's very Nostradamus of TFC. Let's see, here we go. We're going back to Rob's. He's tweeted quite a bit. If you couldn't, the sky was falling in on many of them. He suggested a couple bottles of Jack on the round table at one point. Things weren't going well. Here we go. Let's see. Yes, you retweeted a bunch of people. You wanted to give Dero a run out. FFS. If this is what Bez meant when he said "we mean business," I'm terrified. That was another good one. Yeah, and then added pressure. You spent $100 million and are in a slide at the worst possible time. Not sure how much more pressure can be heaped on. Nelson has lost it, taking Tim B to task. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Oh, here we go. Here's the
Here we
tweet.
go.
That's it. After 2/3 of the most important season in franchise history, I've had it. Nelson, you're done, bud. Hashtag angry tweets. So that tweet was Saturday night at about 8:30 Eastern, and then we go to Sunday morning, and Ryan Nelson is shunned the door. Rob may have had a hotline into the TFC offices because he had enough after 2/3 of the season. But Nelson out at TFC. Rob, your initial thoughts were?
Well, you know what? I said that he was done, but I didn't mean done right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, like any logical sense, to cut a coach who, for the most part, I mean, he's a tactical disaster. There's no identity to this team. They don't know what they're doing on the pitch. As you just said, Michael Bradley running around like a chicken with no head. And, you know, there's 10 games left in the season. You're still in the playoffs. Why now? I knew he'd be gone by the end of the season. There's no question about it. Because with the team that they put together, this shouldn't even be, it shouldn't even be coming down to this. But my initial thoughts were, good move, just way too early.
Yeah, you would have thought, especially they're still in third, barely, but they're still in third. They're still in the playoffs. They're, like you said, sliding at the worst possible time, but they're still in it. Defoe's hurt. They could turn it around. They have 2 big games this week against Philadelphia, who is right there in it too. The timing was a little strange, probably. I agree with that. But I think it goes back to, and I tweeted from the Total-MLS account on Sunday, I was more shocked that Nelson got the job in the first place. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Oh, of course.
They brought in a guy who he couldn't come coach because he was still finishing his season playing. So he hasn't even been on a sideline.
I really thought that they would have. And Rob, I mean, you said this when we had our season preview. You said you didn't think he was the right guy. I remember you saying that to coach this team, and I really thought they would have. I mean, before the season started, brought someone else in. I mean, I don't know who I don't know who they would have brought in, but at the time there were a lot of vacancies. There were a lot of coaches out there. But yeah, you're right. It is a weird time, and now you're in the play. Now all these games matter. The next 9 games that remain in the season, they all matter. And to get rid of your coach when you're in the playoff hunt, and when the East is, I mean, who knows in the East who's going to make it? So to get rid of your guy at that point, you know, who's really coaching? You know.
Yeah, with the talent they assembled, I don't know if they thought, hey, whoever we get, they can just roll the ball out there and we'll do well. But that obviously was the wrong mindset. If they thought Nelson was going to help them recruit guys from the EPL, that may have been part of it as well. They brought in Bradley Orr. That's their one recruit. So that didn't go great. I mean,
honestly.
Go ahead.
Oh no, it's like what Mike was saying. From the very beginning, you know, nobody really thought that Nelson would make it. Personally, I didn't think that he was going to make it even until the World Cup. And if he went on a slide like this, just before the World Cup, he would have been gone even then. But no, this team was only going to go as far as Nelson could take them, because he's not a coach. I mean, he may have the qualities, and he may have the initial characteristics to be a coach, but I was actually going head to head with somebody on Twitter about this, and I said usually you need something to say you are a coach before you can actually be a coach, and he doesn't have any sort of certificate or license or badge, whatever you want to call it. So to throw him out there, sure, he pieced together a few wins, but the team is a tactical mess. Like Michael Bradley should be dictating the pace of the game on the pitch. That's his bread and butter. He's a ball-winning, holding defensive midfielder. He has the ability to move forward and attack as well. He should be the guy that's working the game. Why they keep putting Jackson as a left back when they have a natural left back wasting away on the bench in Ashton Morgan? I mean, they have defenders. Why aren't they using them? I mean, I'm not going to go out and say that Nelson has a beef with Canadian players or something like that. But, I mean, Ashton Morgan, he's not a bad defender. He makes some poor decisions, but then again, so does Daniil Henry, and that's cost us a few times. What the hell? Why not give him a shot?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's all a bit maddening.
Yeah.
I think, too, on Nelson, he was playing in England. So, Major League Soccer is in its own. It's a very different game. I think people would agree than the European game. And how much had Nelson really seen of MLS games? And he's trying to come up with tactics and lineups and formations and such against Major League Soccer. It's kind of like if I was just going to go in and drop some plays for a basketball team. It's obviously a different sport. It's not a great comparison, but he's coming in kind of blind. He had to learn on the fly, really.
The thing with Ryan Nelson is that, he's got his connections in the UK and EPL, and he knows a lot of guys. I'm sure that was one of the things that was instrumental in bringing Defoe to TFC in the first place. Besides Drake, but
Drake had a lot to do with it.
But Nelson played in MLS. He won an MLS Cup with DC. So he has an understanding of the league. But the most mind-boggling thing was when he got upset with Tim Bez for calling the New England game a pressure game, and basically just coming short of saying that it was a must-win. Everybody knew that it was almost a must-win. So why is Nelson playing the bleeding heart player's coach, and saying that it was undue pressure on the players, and it was, it wasn't as pressuring of a game as he thought it was? And then he goes on a tangent saying, I've played in this league, I've won in this league. If you've played and won in this league, then you would know when there's a four-way tie for third place in the Eastern Conference with 9 games left, that's a pretty pressure situation. I think everyone can agree with that. So I know that he was delusional. I know he was delusional. Some of his post-game interviews saying that, the guys played well and, they were tough to beat. I swear he said something along those lines after we got thrashed by KC a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
It doesn't make sense for him to be saying things like that. And everybody at home was, you're just waiting to hear what's going to come out of this guy's mouth. I completely support a coaching change. I just don't think that it was done at the right time. That's it.
Yeah. Philip, you have any thoughts on this mess up in Toronto?
The whole thing just it always seemed to me that Ryan Nelson very quickly realized he was in over his head. When he first took the job, yeah, he had no experience managing a team, but I got Jermaine Defoe, I got Michael Bradley. Doesn't matter what I do, we're going to be great. And then a few games come in, struggle a little bit, and Defoe gets hurt, go on a bad run, and all of a sudden, the pressure builds up, and now you're in the situation you're in now, and now we're figuring out that he just couldn't do the job. But the thing that really shocked me was everywhere apart from that, it's how fast Toronto got his replacement. The fact that they did it within, 24 hours, not even, and that it wasn't somebody with the team, it was somebody outside, and that they didn't even give him the interim tag. It's head coach. So that told me that
well, Vanny's in their front office, right?
Yeah,
he's there. Like, wasn't he assistant GM or something? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was assistant GM, and I think he was director of the academy as well.
Okay.
But no, you're totally right. And when they had the press conference with Tim Bez and Greg Vanny, Tim Bez was saying straight up that he was hoping that he could delay this for a few more weeks, but after the recent string, they just had to pull the trigger. But my beef is not necessarily at how well, actually, I should rephrase. My beef is that they found a replacement so quickly, and the guy that they got to replace him is just as inexperienced as Nelson is. I mean, why don't you, like I said, we're still in the playoffs. We have a loose chance at making the playoffs. But you're not in a horrible position. You can still pull off a few wins. But,
the whole juxtaposition, it reminded me of just the fact that Toronto and New England are in relatively the same spot, but you can just tell New England is on their way up, and they have all sorts of optimism. Like, they really believe they're going to win. Toronto is they're on their way down. They're in the same spot. I think they're tied, but you just get the sense, and you just know that it's not going to be a happy ending.
I completely agree. Completely. You get the feeling. Well, you know what? It's not even so much as getting the feeling before the match that we're almost afraid. Mm-hmm. It's that feeling when you're in the stands, it's a tie game or we're up by 1, and clock strikes 89, bang, you lose the game or the game's a tie.
Yeah.
Like, how I need to go back through all of TFC's games from the last 2 seasons and see just how many times that's happened. I'm sure somebody's already done it, but it's insane. It's insane. And I refuse. There's one of the songs that we'll sing in the Red Patch Boys area when we're almost confident that the team is going to win, and I refuse to sing the song until at least we're in added time, because I know something bad's going to happen. It's just a jinx.
Yeah, and
whatever.
It's just, there you go, whatever. And then we didn't even get to Jermaine Defoe wanting to leave, or possibly wanting to leave. Rumors came out last night. Defoe was possibly going back to England. Today the window closed in Europe. Defoe stayed ultimately, but it seems the writing's on the wall. And like we were kind of talking about in our little pre-show, Defoe's probably gone in January, as Rob believes as well. So, and then, which we didn't mention, Rob, you guys had the top spot in the allocation order and traded it for Warren Creavalle. So you have that to look forward to. If Defoe does leave, you gave up the top allocation spot. So,
well, let me just add one thing to this Defoe. I'm trying not to swear, but it's so hard. But with this whole Defoe situation, if he wants to go, he's gone. Mm-hmm. He's already made up his mind for whatever reason, one can only speculate what his reasoning is. But if he's made up his mind, if he's not happy with the way MLS is run, the way TFC is run, the way the league operates and the way the games play out, let him go. Make what you can make off of him, but let him go. Because he's gone until the end of September anyways with a groin injury or a hip abductor injury.
Those were air quotes if you're not watching.
So he's in England already. He's going to be there for another month talking to specialists. So, if he comes back to Toronto for any length of time, it's probably just going to be for him to pick up his stuff so that he can head home. Because I think he is in over his head.
Yeah.
There was all this talk about needing to find a DP that would be the personification of Toronto FC. And how much more personification could you get than a guy who wants to leave after 2/3 of a season? It's just so typical.
Go ahead, Philip.
And that can be, we don't see it often in MLS, but the Jermaine Defoe situation that can be the downside of getting a big name DP. Due to the fact that when you pay so much for a guy compared to the rest of the people on the team, that player pretty much has your metaphorical testicles in a vice. He can pretty much name what he wants, and he's going to get it. When you pay somebody $5 million a year, and the vast majority of the team, a few $100,000 or less, that creates a very big divide in power.
Yeah, I think one more thing, and we'll wrap up Toronto talk and go to some other things. But I think Bez Pachinko, or Tim Bez, came out today and said that they had a record offer for Defoe, and they turned it down. And I think what Rob was saying, he wants to go. If you have a record offer for him and he's quote-unquote hurt anyway, he's not going to be back till September anyway, why don't you pull the plug on that offer? And I think the answer is because they could not possibly, the ship would have just Titanicked all the way down if they sold Defoe today. The fans would have probably, BMO would have been in a riot happening. I mean, I think if all that other stuff wouldn't have happened, they probably would have sold Defoe if they had that offer.
Well, I personally think that there is a little fibbing going on. I don't think they had as high an offer as what was said, because the signs all pointed. I mean, you're gonna get some upset Toronto fans, but Rob, you can attest to it. They're already upset. So, and at least make some money.
The craziest thing is that you'll hear murmurings from fans, whether it's on Twitter or in the stands, that the team actually looks better on the field when Defoe is not playing. Now, take what you want from that, but has he already mailed it in? I mean, I can't really say because I never really watched him much when he was at Tottenham, but not getting a pass or something like that and throwing your hands up in the air as if it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
I don't know, but again, if you get that kind of an offer, in most cases, definitely you should jump at it. However, when you've tried to restore hope in a hopeless city like Toronto, and you've sold basically all your season tickets that you need to keep the team above ground for the next 2 seasons based on a guy like Jermaine Defoe, if you sell him before even 1 season, it's like Dustin said, BMO would be empty, completely empty.
You're also paying for renovation of 2 on the stadium. It's a very big investment.
Yeah, You pay for two guys that are going to put asses in the seats, and then you add another 8,000 seats to that stadium and a roof.
Mm.
Where are these people going to come from? If Bradley and Defoe, as I'm predicting, are both gone in the January transfer window, it's going to be a colossal mess. Colossal.
Oh, yeah. And I remember the empty seats from years ago when it was pretty bad.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, the whole situation with Defoe is reminding me of Marquez here at the Red Bulls and how he wanted to, he phoned in that last season. He was gone in Mexico a lot. He was injured a lot. He was injured down in Mexico a lot. And then just the silly, the worst possible time to get a red card, the Eastern Conference semifinals. You're up a man. You just missed a penalty. Let me go get a red card and sit this one out in the snow. And it's he didn't want to play there anymore. He didn't want to play for that team. The fans were against him because they knew he wanted to go, and they took forever to do that deal. If Defoe wants to go, and Toronto's in the middle of this huge Eastern Conference battle, get rid of him. Take the money, get rid of him. You still have a few hours. Maybe who knows? Maybe they had an iron in the fire or something like that. Maybe that's why they didn't pull the trigger because they couldn't sign someone quickly enough. That is what it is. But now that he doesn't want to play there, let's say he doesn't move in January. Is he starting the season for Toronto? He's starting the season for is it new coach Barney? Is that his name?
Fanny, Barney.
It's a really tough situation, and I think the fans have a right to be really pissed off because to your MLS franchise, and here it is. Here's your golden ticket. You guys are in the hunt. You guys were looking good in a lot of games, whether with Defoe or without Defoe, and you're in third in the East. And then all this stuff happens right before playoffs. And as you said, you were like doomsayer all weekend long, unfortunately. And you guys think you're not going to make the playoffs, and you're in third place, and you think you're not going to make the playoffs because all it's going to cascade down, which it's very likely could happen. If the season could collapse on you guys, and then you don't make the playoffs again, and you went out and you spent $100 million in January. The fans do have a right to be pissed off.
Yeah.
It's a PR disaster.
Yeah. All right.
And,
so that's. Go ahead, Philip.
Well, I was going to add another point. Just thinking of today. Well, thinking of it right now. The mere fact that Jermaine Defoe is hurt. There's so many plot holes to this whole thing. It's really fascinating. For one thing, why would anyone make a record offer?
An injured player.
Someone who's supposed to be injured. The whole thing is just insanely fishy.
That's like just, the whole Jeff Cameron was injured and got called up to the national team.
Yeah.
Injured.
It's just so Toronto. That's all it is.
Hey, welcome to the That's So Metro Club.
That's so Metro. That's so TFC. Yeah, so that's like 30 minutes of talk on just Toronto. So everyone,
sorry guys,
you're very welcome for that exquisite breakdown that we just gave everyone. So we'll move on now from poor Toronto. We'll let Rob get his blood pressure back down a little, maybe have a few drinks, try to calm down. But we'll move back to the action on the field. The Friday night, we saw the Eastern Conference get a little closer. Every time I start to count the Dynamo out, they claw themselves back in. They had one road win all season, and that was at Chivas, so, does it really count? They go to Sporting Park. They get the win. They lose Will Bruin in the process. They lose Tally Hall in the process. And if you haven't seen on Twitter today, it looks like some of the quotes coming from the Dynamo camp, especially I think Brad Davis, saying that they're prepared to play the rest of the season without Hall, so it's not looking too good. Sebastian Salazar had some quotes on his Twitter if you want to go check that out. but it's kind of their MO to make a run late in the season. Philip, you got trounced DC at home. Houston comes in 3-1 at home. What is the panic button being pushed yet, or getting close to it in sporting land?
I don't think yet, but if this trend does continue, let's just say I'm not booking a trip to Sporting Park in December. That's for sure. Uh, like, well, I tweeted Friday night something. I forget what it is. I just know I just know I was mad. But the thing with that game was that was maybe the first time, because of all the physicalness and stuff. That was maybe the first time I ever thought of the team as playing dirty. And I know that a lot of people say Sporting it does play dirty, Colin, and all that. And I've always defended that it was physical play. For the most part they play within the rules and all that. But yeah, I could not defend that. And it's not to say Houston were angels either. They both got in it, but in order to be really impartial, you either had to say both were dirty or both were physical, and it was within the rules. It just seems like a trend over the past few years. Teams like Houston, Chicago, even DC, Sporting, I feel that they're kind of it's kind of a bad analogy, but they're kind of the equivalent of the bully in the schoolyard. And when someone stands up to them and just, like what Houston did, and just pops them in the mouth, they don't get up. That's how Houston beat Sporting in the playoffs 2 years in a row. It's why Chicago has such a great record against them. They play as physical against Sporting as Sporting does to everybody else, and Sporting just doesn't have an answer for it.
Yeah, I think Houston. I think they've played so often. The two teams know each other so well. I think they know that they could get physical with them and throw them off their game. Guys like Colin and Dwyer are going to start complaining to the refs. Failhaber, they're going to be too worried about the refs than
exactly.
And
that's what happened.
Yeah, all of a sudden 2 set pieces from Davis and boom, boom, 3-1. They match up well with Sporting. I think, like you said, they're able to come in and kind of punch them in the mouth. They don't let Sporting counter like they're so good at. I think they have guys in the midfield that can kind of clog it up with Clark and Garrido. They can hold on to the ball with guys like Davis, Barnes, Boniek. So, the Dynamo may not be there to knock them out, but it sure would be a heck of a playoff series if they got to play each other again.
The only thing I don't know if either team would. I don't know if the winner would last the next round. the loser may just kill the other.
There may be enough injuries and red cards that they may not even.
May have to combine forces.
Yeah, that would go over well. So Houston, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to ask, do you guys think Geiger called a good game? Because as a non-partial viewer, I thought he called a really good game. I thought when a game gets that way, you just let the smaller stuff go, let the note it. I thought he guarded pretty well. That scuffle that broke out was it was laughable on both teams' parts.
Yeah.
I think Geiger's. He's obviously one of the best referees in not just MLS, but he was on the World Cup stage, so he's a great referee. I think the World Cup kind of helped him too, especially with games like this. Like you said, I don't know that he could have done anything differently that would have affected the game. Like I said, Houston was going to come out and try to bully, for lack of a better word, KC, and KC was going to do the same thing. They weren't going to be pushed around, especially at home. Geiger called fouls. He gave some yellow cards. I know a lot of Sporting fans were upset. The referees robbed us, or referees were terrible, but I don't know what Geiger could have done. Unless he sends off Sarkodie and sends off Failhaber and sends off Dwyer and Giles Barnes, and he just starts whipping out red cards, which is not a great way to corral it either. Personally, I mean, obviously the Dynamo won, but I mean, honestly, I don't think he could have done anything better. I think he did a good job.
Well, even that, I mean, some games the referees do a terrible job. It's MLS. For this game, I mean, I think Geiger could have been stricter with the cards, but he did do a good job. And quite honestly, you can't blame Geiger for that performance. Geiger didn't let in those goals. He blocked that one shot, but I mean that was an accident. I'm not going to blame him. But yeah, that was a game where the players let an outside force affect them, and it just completely ruined them. I mean, they're trying to blame Geiger. They're trying to blame Geiger for their performance when they should be blaming themselves. And that's
it was a weird game altogether. Yeah, it was a weird game altogether with the hour and a half or almost hour and a half delay.
Yeah.
It just the physicality, the fouls, the scuffles, the injuries. It was just one of those weird games that if they played again today, Sporting may win 4-0. It's just the Dynamo got the breaks went their way. He got a couple guys injured, which wasn't good, but Bruin finished a chance right in front. They had two perfect set pieces from Davis that were headed in, and that's all she wrote.
And the one thing I got mad about tonight was a lot of people were criticizing John Kempen, and he led in the third goal. That was a weak goal, but I'm thinking it's not his fault. The back line can't do the job. I mean, Ola missed the mark in the second goal. Not much Kempen can do about that. I mean, in the DC game, there were about 2 or 3 goals. The defense just let him at it. And there's not much you can do. Jimmy Nielsen could be back there. He'd do the same job. There's only so much you can do.
I don't think anyone was stopping Will Bruin's shot. I mean, that was the volley that he had. You can never blame that on a goalkeeper. That
exactly.
That hard and that fast.
Especially since Colin teed it up for him.
Yeah.
On that, he volleyed it right into Bruin's right leg.
Couldn't make it any more perfect than that.
Yeah, and then like you said, Olam's marking on the second goal was criminal. And then, yeah, it was.
There was somebody, I forget who it is. Somebody mentioned that, and I didn't think about it until now, and it does make sense. Is that Sporting misses Oriol Russell, and I firmly agree with that.
Especially in a game like that, because
yeah,
you have, I mean, like the Dynamo have Garrido, and if you guys haven't seen Garrido play for the Dynamo, he played for Honduras at the World Cup. They signed him afterwards. He's been here about a month, but he's one of those bulldog guys in the middle. He'll hold possession. He smartly fouls guys. He's tenacious, and that's what Russell was for Sporting. And especially in a game like that, his absence is seen very clearly. So Houston moved up with that win briefly. They needed some other things to happen in the East. Chicago won. Montreal somehow beat Columbus with Piatti scoring twice, getting his resume ready for his move to New York or Miami or wherever he said he wanted to go. New England, which we kind of spoke of, beat Toronto, if anyone was wondering. And then DC beat New York in the East. So we have, sorry, Mike, just put his head down in a very sad-looking face. But the East now, DC in front, Sporting still in second, and those two are probably not going to move from those two spots. Then you have New England with 33, Toronto with 33, Columbus with 33, New York with 31, Philly 30, Chicago 29, Houston 28. And we were kind of talking in our little pre-show, if Philadelphia beats Toronto on Wednesday, there'll be 4 teams tied with 33 points. It's crazy, a crazy mess in the East. Chicago's played 25 games. They've won 5 of them, 1/5, and they're somehow still in this, which is crazy if you look at it that way. But do you guys? We talk about this, it seems, every week. The crazy East. Do you guys see any changes now that, well, there's a sinking ship up north that may be sliding back down the table? But do you guys? Is Houston back in it? Is Chicago back in it? Is Columbus faltering? New York fell to 6th. Mike, I don't know what's going on there, but what are you guys' thoughts on in general in the East?
The next 9 games are Eastern Conference teams, and 5 of those are at home, and they're all teams that are in the playoff hunt. We got DC again. We have Sporting. We have Toronto, Houston, Columbus. We're away at Philly, and we're away at Sporting. It's just, I mean, for the Rebels to survive in the playoffs, they have to sweep their home games. Because what is it normally? It's like 40 points, and you can kind of breeze your way into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's general.
Are these teams gonna, like, outside of DC and Sporting? Is anyone else in the East want to get to 40 points anytime soon? I mean, it doesn't seem like. It just seems like the teams that are closer to it are going to start losing to the teams that are further from it, and it's just going to be a nice jumble between like 33 and 38 points. And it's kind of sad.
Yeah, and I think this whole tiebreaker that MLS changes every year is unfortunately going to probably come into effect this year. And this year it's wins is the first tiebreaker, which makes no sense. About as much sense as goals scored.
That's what they spun on the wheel, the tiebreaker wheel.
Maybe. But it's goals for last year, I think it was, which also made no sense. But if somebody gets knocked out of the playoffs because they have one less win but a better goal difference, all hell might break loose. Rob's pointing at himself.
I mean,
If it's going to happen to anybody, it'll happen to us.
If it's going to happen, Toronto's going to finish tied with someone for 5th. They're going to be tied with wins. They're going to be tied on goals for. They're going to be tied on everything and go to the drawing of lots, the coin flip.
Yeah, it's like the 4th or 5th tiebreaker, a coin flip. There aren't that many scenarios.
No.
Like it's like 8th or 9th scenarios a coin flip, but
yeah, I think disciplinary points is even in there.
Yeah, that's 4th. That's the 4th level.
Yes. Toronto's going to be tied on all these things with like Columbus or something and go out on a coin flip.
Here's the goal differential. DC has a positive 12. Sporting has a positive 8, both on 26 games. New England on 25 is -2. That's 3rd place, -2 goal differential. Toronto is on 24 games, -4. Columbus and New York. Columbus is 26 with a positive 1. New York with a positive 1. Philly with a -1. Chicago with a -5.
Don't say Houston's.
Yeah. They have the same as Montreal.
Was it -15 or something?
-18. Montreal has won 5 games. They've won as many games as Chicago. And they're 9 points back.
Chivas has won 6 games. We make fun of them all the time. If they were in the East, they'd be in it. Poor Chivas.
We need to get someone else on here to really like go, hey, this is how a table actually looks.
Yeah.
Instead of the East. It's like the NBA like Atlantic Division with the Knicks and the Celtics. Like it's just pitiful.
Yeah, it's a crazy table. Like you said, New England 3rd place with a negative goal difference and Houston somehow -18, and they're still in the act. That makes absolutely no sense.
New England has 12 losses and only 10 wins, and they're 3rd.
New England lost 8 straight games. 8 games in a row. Houston didn't score the entire month of June. They didn't score a goal. They couldn't kick a ball into the net for an entire month, and they're still in this. This is the Eastern Conference right now. Teams that have gone on like month-long losing streaks, month-long goal droughts are still in it.
Not only that, but they could get the top two. They could get a bye.
That's crazy. Yeah, New England could finish. New England could somehow finish second.
It's realistic. If New England has a game in hand, and they play Sporting twice,
yeah,
that's 9 points.
That's 9 points that they trail by right there.
It's really bad.
I mean, it's sad to think about that but yeah, that could really happen.
And then to just round off the whole craziness of the Eastern Conference, the team that had 3 wins the entire season last year is now in first and like running away from everyone.
It was that trophy. It was the Open Cup that propelled them.
Yes, their run to the Open Cup is what got them there. But I mean, DC, they kind of did it an unconventional way, and I don't know if we talked about this before, but no one wanted Bobby Boswell. He was up for grabs. No one wanted, Sean Franklin, Davey Arnaud. They took. They just kind of rebuilt with these just guys, and no one wanted Eddie Johnson, St. Pamey, and Espindola.
Like the Oakland Raiders of MLS.
Yeah, they get Espindola, Arnaud. Wilhelm's been playing out of his mind.
And that makes sense. The Raiders comparison, considering they play in RFK. Very good.
Yeah, poor RFK. That's a shame. So the East is crazy as ever, but I mean, last man standing? It seems like whoever doesn't lose is gonna almost be the team that takes it. It's gonna be one of those like, who wants it? Well, everybody keeps backing out, like you guys said. No one wants to get to 40 points.
Hey guys,
3 5 are going to back into the playoffs.
Go ahead, Rob. What do you got?
So a friend of mine, another TFC supporter and season ticket holder, he just alerted me to an article on the TalkSport website, and the headline is Defoe deal likely in January reveals QPR boss Redknapp.
Yeah,
So,
I saw the interview. I think Fernandez said he was hopeful to get Defoe in the winter.
well, this is a quote directly from Redknapp in the article. It says, he said, "We tried all day with Jermaine Defoe. He was keen to come. We agreed a deal with Toronto, but they wouldn't release him now. We could do a deal and then take him in January, but we wanted to get someone in today."
Yeah. Well, I remember Fernandez saying today, because I made a note of it because he called Toronto American and that they were in the playoff, as to why Toronto wasn't releasing him, and that he was hoping to get him to try again in the winter.
Well, and this, sorry to keep bringing this up, but this goes back to what you said, Philip, about the plot, there being so many holes in the plot, because today at the press conference there was a possibility that surgery may be required.
Yeah.
If he gets surgery, he's done for the season. So that's it.
Yeah.
But anyways, as you were, I just wanted to chime in with that.
Yeah, I found that article. I'll tweet it out from our Total-MLS account here in a second. But so going back to the field of play, it looks like with Sporting's kind of slide, the Supporters' Shield, LA has 48 points, or Seattle has 48, LA has 46, DC has 46. DC's played one more game than those two. LA and Seattle actually played twice in the last 2 games of the season, home and away, which could be a Supporters' Shield win. A Supporters' Shield championship type games for that. Do you guys see anybody else jumping up for it? Is it a 3-horse race at this point?
Maybe
RSL, maybe Sporting.
see, yeah, well, and that's the thing that So since Sporting's on that slide, I'm pretty sure they have an East heavy schedule as well, and we know the East is,
Yeah.
who knows on both sides of every team who's going to show up. Is it going to be the really good team? Because every East team has looked like the world beater, and they've looked like the world has beaten them just back-to-back matches. So I mean, DC's probably the only true East contender. I mean, because Sporting has to deal with CCO, but so does DC, so maybe that hurts them. Seattle and LA don't have to, but if Seattle and LA both have to play each other, if they split those points, then maybe that works in DC or Sporting's favor.
Yeah, I think at this point, I think it's probably Seattle or LA. LA's been looking pretty dangerous. That game yesterday, granted, it was against Chivas, and we know how that goes. But those goals they scored yesterday were, Keane's chip, and then the goal where Donovan dummied it, and then played the through ball to Zardes. I wouldn't want to play them right now.
But it's like the Globetrotters versus the Generals.
Yeah, it really was kind of sad. And then Kubo just lost his brain and went in studs up and got red carded. And the funny thing, I mean, there's nothing funny about it. It was a very dangerous tackle, but he runs off the field. He knew it was a red card. He just got called up to the national team, so he's like, I'm out of here. He had a flight to catch.
Why do you need to do that? It's not like there was going to be any traffic.
Well, that's hurtful. That's mean. There was Galaxy fans there. It's their home field too.
Well, I did see half the stadium tarped off. So.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, the attendance last night looked better than it's been most season, but once again they were playing the Galaxy, so I'm sure a lot of their fans, hey, that's at least an extra game that they can get to a season to see their team at home.
And you're forgetting it was #the last Clasico, one of the great rivalries in MLS history, coming to an end. We'll always.
The way he ran off the field made you watching that game made you think he did that on purpose. I mean, sometimes you go into a challenge, the ref gives you a red, and it could be a red, but he didn't have malice intent behind it. It looked like he kind of had malice intent. I mean, Chivas has been scoreless in how many games now?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I guess. Oh yeah, like I said, he had a flight to catch or something, and hopefully he's going to the national team, so hopefully he'll have a little joy coming up here. And #Free Kubo will continue to be tweeted. And Dan Kennedy. Poor guys. It's rough. But hopefully, like I said, I feel really bad for Dan Kennedy. But I know Andrew, who writes for Chivas for us, he was the president of Chivas was speaking to some fans yesterday, and he had some tweets about it. If you check out his timeline, basically saying they're working on it still, and they're I feel bad for their supporters because they have some really good supporters there. I know we make fun of them, and everyone makes fun of them for their attendance and stuff. But the fan base they do have is very loyal and very they're very much behind the team, and hopefully something gets done sooner rather than later, so they can move on from the Chivas USA and become LASC or whatever they're going to become, and get on to a new chapter.
No, I agree that that's what makes it so tough to because a lot of people want relocation, and there's an argument that it makes sense. But I've always looked at it as there's great fan bases all around, whether it's Seattle, KC, Portland, Philly, all around. But quantity does not necessarily equal quality. And who's to say 1,000 Chivas supporters that go to every game are any worse than 40,000 in Seattle. They love their team just as much as Seattle does, and quite frankly, to have to sit through performances like that all those years, it's they have a loyalty to that team. So, you know, you, you shouldn't throw around the relocation word, flip it, but
Yeah.
but it is something that should be talked about too.
Yeah, I don't think they're going anywhere. The league wants that LA market, like they want the New York two-team market. Come hell or high water, they're gonna make LA work.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe why the deal is taking so long, and we don't know, and there's really not much news on who's going to buy Chivas because they don't want to move. So I mean, I've seen people talk about, well, whoever doesn't get the last team in MLS, there's so many good markets out there that, San Antonio, Austin, uh, Sacramento, Minneapolis, there's all these markets that people want teams in, and that only one St. Louis, only one city's gonna get a team. So
Yeah.
move Chivas to one of the other cities that don't get it. But I mean, like you said, Garber wants that LA, classic game. He wants that New York derby, and the reason why they're not going to relocate and that they're going to stay there, and we haven't heard anything, is because they're waiting for the right deal. They're waiting for people who are actually going to. I'm not saying that Vergara didn't take care of the club because I mean they Chivas, they went to the playoffs a couple of years. They had Bradley. They were pretty good in their early stages, and they fell off the mark, and they just hit one rough patch after another. And I think MLS wants it done right, because we kept hearing what rumblings. Oh, All-Star game, they're going to announce Chivas, the sale of Chivas. They're going to announce the sale of Chivas, the All-Star game. It's almost over a month since that game, and no real words. So to me, that's a good thing. I'd rather them take their time and do it right, but before next season, because to have a team go through a re-entry draft or an expansion draft with two teams where the league has to choose who to protect is kind of weird.
Yeah, that I think, like you said, they've probably gotten offers from people, especially some of those other markets, maybe Sacramento, Minnesota, San Antonio, but it's got to be a caveat in there that you can buy the team, but you have to keep them in LA, and you probably have to get a stadium. I don't think they want them at StubHub Center anymore. It's just
I think that's the thing that's keeping everything back is the stadium deal.
yeah, and hopefully they get it done soon. Like we said, if nothing else, for their fans, for Kubo, for Dan Kennedy. Carlos Bocanegra, I think, is still alive. But all right, so we're about an hour in, so we're gonna kind of wrap things up here. We'll start with some final thoughts from our guys, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll start with you, Mike. Any last words? Anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
The next 3 weeks will decide if the Red Bulls make the playoffs or not. They have a lot of games, home and away. I mean, I think 2 weeks rest. They're away at Philly, away at Montreal, away at LA, home against Seattle or something like that. It's a very condensed schedule. So not even the end of September. The next 3 weeks determine whether or not the Red Bulls will make the playoffs.
So, gun to your head, they make it or not at this point, if you had to choose.
I think they're in. I think they're fifth place. They're playing away the first game, but I think they get in, skin of their teeth.
All right. Philip, busy day with over at 32 Flags at the transfer window. Any last words?
I'm really looking forward to the next few games. I'll have to be up in New York for the Red Bulls game, so I'll be in with the Cauldron. They may be struggling, but still supporting them, and supposed to be at least 200 strong in New York, so it's gonna be rocking. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, Rob. It's been a rough few days. for you, my friend. Any last words? Anything
Well,
we could do to
tonight,
make you feel better?
well, you know what? We still need to have a couple bottles of Jack between all of us and just have at our teams one of these days.
One of these
But
nights we'll have
no,
Go ahead.
no, go finish.
No, I was just gonna say one of these nights we'll have a no holds barred roundtable of just explicit, X-rated.
Post-show pay-per-view type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but heading into I guess you'd call it the home stretch at this point. I think what's really going to define it is this home and home with Philly. If we can't escape from Philly without at least a point, and then if we come back home and drop any points, I think that'll most likely cost us. Heading to Chicago after that home and home is going to be pretty massive. That we're going to need 3 points there, no question about it. So this huge home stretch is going to be pretty hectic. And then considering the fact that it's only going to be Greg Vanney on the bench with no support because there's no coaching staff to help him out, Wednesday night could be a disaster. So I guess stay tuned for some more fun. I guess you can follow me on Twitter and see just how crazy I'll end up going off. But yeah, stay tuned because it's going to get interesting.
Very much. There's the next chapter of the TFC saga. Who knows what it'll hold? And each week I've killed the Dynamo. I've said they're coming back. So this week I'm just not going to say anything. They will host Montreal on Saturday, and we'll go from there. That's all I'm going to say on that. So thanks to Mike, Philip, and Rob for joining us, and we will talk to you guys next week. Hopefully a maybe less eventful week off the field, but hopefully on the field, some more great games and an even more muddled playoff chase. So we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.